to start our 59th Ask Tamily interview, which is going to be with Loretta. Loretta's Instagram name, as if you all don't know, is Loretta's Fitness Life. And we are going to connect in a moment, and we'll get started with Loretta's interview. We will, of course, hello, Loretta.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us for our 59th Ask Tamily interview.
I can't believe how many there have been. That's
It's
crazy.
insane. It's insane. It feels like it should be 14, and it's 59.
Yeah, I need to really go back and watch all of them because I haven't seen them all. So that's
Yeah. I can't even remember some of them that we did. So
early on, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being our 59th. We're really excited to interview you. And of course, we have lots of questions planned, but we'll also take questions in the live chat as well. So I'll try to switch back and forth. But everybody that's watching, you can feel free to type in some questions, and we'll make sure to scroll through. What we want to do first, though, is ask you, Loretta, when and how did you get started with the Tracy Anderson method?
So it was, I think, 2008 is when I first discovered Tracy. I actually saw her on the cover of a fitness magazine, and I was really intrigued by just how she was integrating her classical dance training and her cheerleading experience and all of that into one method. I had some similar kind of experiences. I grew up like as a young child dancing. I was a cheerleader in high school and always kind of integrated that too into my fitness routine. And so it really like engaged me right away to want to try it. So I actually ordered the original Matte DVD at that time. And it was funny because I didn't actually have space in the place that I lived to actually do the DVD. So what I did for a little while, for a long while actually, was I would pop in the DVD and I would do just the arm section, which you know is like amazing, an arm section, probably from any DVD. And then I would go for a run. And that's what I did because I didn't have room in my space at the time in my little apartment to actually do the legs. So I did that probably for almost a year. And then when I moved to Florida with my now husband, we had a bigger space. So I started to do the entire DVD, but I was still running. I was still integrating running into my routine. I was really into it at that time, and I really didn't introduce the dance cardio at all at that point. And so I did that. And then when I got pregnant, I actually found out at that time that Tracy was pregnant and was at the point of releasing the pregnancy project at the same time. So I think I was entering probably my second trimester when I started doing the pregnancy project. And so I did that throughout my pregnancy. And then I went to Meta after I had my daughter. And then, probably around 2015, we moved to where we live now. And I was really excited to know that streaming was coming out. But it was funny because when I subscribed to streaming, I didn't actually do the workouts for a few weeks. Like, it took me a while to get motivated to do it. And when I actually did it for the first time, I was actually really discouraged because I felt really, really weak. I didn't feel like I was ready. It was just such a different setting, a different workout like program compared to, any of the DVDs. Like, I loved the live class environment, but at the same time, I felt like it was a very intensive class. And at that time, we only had one streaming class. There was no beginners, there was no intermediate. So I went straight to that. So I kind of backed off a little bit. I wasn't as consistent. But then I thought, I subscribed to this. I committed to this financially. I may as well stick to it for 30 days and just see what happens. And so that's what I did. And I committed to just doing 4 days a week. And I actually didn't use like the ankle weights probably for the first 6 weeks at all. And then I stuck with it. So it just, I kind of never turned back, I guess, and stayed with the method ever since.
Is there a point where you gave up running, or do you ever still run occasionally?
I actually ran quite a bit. Actually, it wasn't until I started streaming where I was probably halfway through the first year of streaming when I decided to try the method as it was meant to be, or how Tracy prescribes it, and integrate the dance cardio piece as my cardio. I thought I might as well jump in fully the way the method's intended and try to do it. So at that point, I stopped running as much. I still run here and there, especially if I don't have, like the streaming accessible to me or whatever, I will run. But at that point in time, I decided to learn all the dances. So it was kind of like a little self-challenge for me. So I went back to the DVDs, and because at that point too, in streaming, we didn't have cardio classes. So I went back to the DVDs and I learned basically one combination at a time. Like I would take a week and learn one combination of the dance cardio at that time until I got it, and then I would move on and do the next. So I did that with all 3 DVDs, the DC2, DC1, and then the Popstar DVD. I think there's only like 2 dances I don't know from Popstar that I'm actually starting back to work on now, because I've seen them recently posted, so I'm like, I gotta learn that again. So that's when I integrated dance cardio into my regular routine.
So we have a couple of good questions in the chat. One question is, when you stopped running and jumped into the method dance cardio, did you see a change in your body?
I think I did. I don't know if it's so much attributed to stopping running or if it's actually just doing the method. But I do feel like my core got stronger, and I feel like, Tracy always talks about the pancake butt. I think my butt has always been my weakest point. And so I did notice after I quit running that I didn't really have that same experience as I did. I think it just doesn't engage the same muscles. Like when you're doing dance cardio, it's almost like you are, like she said this before too, like you're in a basketball game, like you're really shifting and moving. You're not ever like just repetitive in your movements. You have to leap and jump and turn. And so it does engage pretty much your whole body, and running is just very repetitive. So I think it did, in combination with doing the method, the mat portion, probably did, change my body quite a bit, made it a little more balanced.
We have a couple questions from Peachy Bottom, also known as Christina. She would like to know, can you share some tips on how you stay light on your feet during the dance cardio?
Shoes are really important, and I dance on concrete, so I really don't have a choice but, because if I don't stay light and engaged in my core and wear the good shoes, like I will injure myself. So I think what I try to do is just lift. When I lift and jump, I try to do it from my core, not so much from my feet necessarily. So the feet are kind of like a byproduct, kind of lighter when you're using the rest of your body to lift. So I try to do that, but I go through shoes like crazy. I shift my shoes, so I have about 3 pair that I will do for dance cardio, and I won't wear the same pair like 2 days in a row if I'm doing them. And that's really like a running tip too. It's like you want to have your running shoes to where you're rotating them like on a regular basis. So I kind of like applied that to the dance cardio as well, especially dancing on concrete. So I think too, you got to start kind of slow when you're going into the dance cardio. And just like running too, it's the same thing. Like you don't want to go too fast too soon, too far too soon. So like just give your body a chance. Because I know even initially for me when I started doing the dance cardio, I did get like shin splints and things like that. And to avoid that, you just have to kind of ease in. You just do a few minutes at a time. So I think learning the dances kind of helps that process to occur, because you're kind of having to start and stop. Like for me, I would rewind and replay, and it gives your body a chance to kind of adjust to like the new routine that you're introducing.
Do you use the same shoes for muscular structure and dance cardio and just rotate, or do you ever do different shoes for muscular structure?
Sometimes the only reason I rotate sometimes for that is in the summer when it's so hot that like my shoes get soaked. I tend to do dance cardio right after the arms section and before I do mat, so I'm pretty sweaty by the time I get to the mat workout. So sometimes I'll change my shoes out. I was using like the APL brand for a little bit. They didn't actually hold up very well, but they were very light to do the mat work. So I did use those for a little while, but I haven't used those. They seem to like fall apart on me a little bit faster than I would like. So right now I'm just kind of using the Nike like 270s are my favorite brands to use for both, because you can do dance cardio and mat, and they grip pretty good on the mat, but then they're also very cushiony for dancing.
Okay, yeah, those definitely seem to be popular.
Yeah.
Peachy has another great question. I'm excited about this one. Can you tell us about your first TA Instagram post and how you felt about posting and how the community differs from then to now?
That is a great question. It was so small back then. So literally, I feel like maybe 2 handfuls of people were posting at that time. But I was very insecure about posting. And I think, though, what was so nice about it, it was a little bit freeing to do that. And it actually helped me to gain confidence, I think, just in general. Because you're really putting yourself out there. I mean, look at how we're sweaty, no makeup, like literally drenched, probably the worst, like not flattering position you can be in. So you're pretty vulnerable, like putting yourself out there. And I feel like that kind of makes you just be okay with yourself in your worst moments or in your best moments. And so you feel comfortable and you see that everyone else is doing it too. It has changed. I mean, I feel like it's grown. The Tamily is so huge, especially like the last year. I feel like there's so many new Tamily members. So it seems more like just the general way to do things now. But back then it was just so fresh. It was really exciting. And I think it was probably one of the first communities like on social media I'd ever really been a part of. And I didn't realize, like when I first started using Instagram even, that when you post a picture, like actually everyone can see it. So I didn't know like how it worked back then even. It was so new to me, like just Instagram in general. So I think it was a different time, a special time for me, I feel like. And of course I appreciate, the Tamily now. But yeah, I think posting became probably a very important part of the routine for me. And staying accountable and just making sure I showed up. And then when you see that others encourage you to do that, you encourage them. It's just such an uplifting and positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a game changer.
Yeah.
And, Loretta, obviously, we've done a lot of these interviews, and just talking amongst the Tamily, you're a very, very inspirational Tamily member. And so we want to know from you, who in the Tamily inspires you?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many unique individuals. The inspiration I get is like just unending. So, I mean, I feel like in general, more than just individuals, I feel like the characteristics that kind of draw me to feel inspired are really those individuals who really treat this as a sport. They really want to be athletes at this method. They want to improve and grow and really care about the details, the form. They want to, really increase their fitness, and they're focused and consistent. And I feel like Instagram can be a little bit distracting, and I'm guilty of it myself. Like, you want to post your cute outfits and you want to look good, but that can actually get in the way sometimes of what you initially came into the method trying to accomplish. So I feel like I'm really drawn to people that are just go, into their zone. They want to do the workout, they want to improve, and they treat it as a sport, and they're athletes. And so I'm really drawn to that. And there's, hundreds of Tamily that do that every day. So I do get inspired by everyone, really.
A couple of people have asked in the chat and actually in posts that, we had put up about the interview, how often you do the dance cardio. Is it every day or how many times a week?
It really depends on how hard the Attain class is, to be honest. I always, the beginning of every week, try to say I'm going to do 4 days a week. Really ends up being about 3 days a week, and it may not even be like the full 30 minutes. But I really try. I mean, my intentions are always there. If it's a week like this week, I feel like it's more possible to add in the dance cardio. And I try to do at least 30 minutes. And then, like, sometimes I will get in a mood where I will prioritize dance cardio. and actually skip like attain if I really feel like I need the extra cardio, or if my energy level is just kind of boosting and I have the energy to jump and dance. So I'll do that instead. But typically, I think it's like 3 days a week. When I was first starting the method, though, it was pretty much every day because I was learning the dances, and that really can be time consuming. But once you know the dances, it's really easy to like integrate that even in 15 minutes. And if you perform the dance well, you will burn a ton of calories, and it will be as if you did like 30 minutes. So it just depends on how hard you push yourself. But I really do enjoy it, so I try to do it as much as I can, and my energy allows.
Of course, the workout is a huge piece, but so is nutrition. So a couple of people have asked, what's your philosophy around food? What do you eat like before your workout, after, and then when going out, things like that.
I mean, I like food is really why I do dance cardio anyway, probably too, for a big part of that. I try to eat all organic, but I'm not somebody that restricts food. I don't cut anything out of my diet at all. I love to cook, and I love to eat really good food. So when I do cook, I cook every day for my family and for myself. And so usually I do fast until after my workout. So I usually eat lunch probably around 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I usually stop eating if I have a glass of wine, it's maybe like 9 p.m. at the latest. So I usually have that window of fasting. But for the most part, I mean, I eat very, very normally, very, I think, clean as much as possible. I do enjoy to go out. So we eat tacos a lot. We go have Italian food a lot. So it just really depends. I try to choose really good foods when I do go out. Like I'll have fish, seafood is like something I love to eat when we go out. But I mean, that doesn't mean I don't splurge. Like we went to Europe this summer, and there was no really like barriers or boundaries with food, and I was okay with that. So I think you just have to. I try to find the balance, and if I'm feeling like I overdid it one day, then I add some more cardio in, or really it's just about finding the balance for you. But I know, some people feel like they have to be a little more restrictive if they're trying to lose weight. I think that's a different situation. I don't really feel the need to lose weight, so it's about maintaining for me. So I get, some people really need to like tighten up things at first. Just try to eat as clean as possible, I think, and pick good ingredients, and you'll be fine.
So when you were traveling or on vacation, do you keep up with your routine, or what's your philosophy around that for the workout?
Well, I don't travel necessarily for work, so most of the travel I do is like pretty much for fun. But I did make a pretty conscious choice when we did this trip to Europe this summer to actually not work out, and I had to make it like a very mindful decision because I knew what our schedule was going to be like. It was a 10-day trip, and we had things like all day long. We were on a cruise ship as well, so there's a lot of like schedule and time frames and deadlines and things you have to be aware of. So I made the mindful choice to really take a break because it was not because I didn't want to work out, but it was going to be more stressful to actually add it into my routine. Like it just didn't feel like it was going to be beneficial to anybody for me to try to force that into my schedule. So I made that mindful decision, and it was good because I feel like it was sort of like a reset for me in a way too. And I had never been to Europe, so it was sort of like I got to really just let loose and enjoy. And because I've been doing the method for so many years, I feel like it wasn't really that much of a setback. I mean, it was a little difficult. I did add a few pounds, but it wasn't like something where I couldn't just jump back into the routine and have the same fitness level and get back to it. So it wasn't bad. Like it didn't derail anything. And I would recommend that. Like if you feel like the workouts are actually more stressful when you're traveling, then just, maybe take a break or just try not to be as intense about it when you travel. But I know it's different. Like for people who work and travel, they have to find a routine to fit it in. And you were doing that for a really long time too. So it's tough.
Yeah. So we got some questions from Miriam because she couldn't join because she's asleep on the other side of the world right now. But one of her questions is, how do you track your weight and how do you get it back off after a holiday, and over what time frame?
I really don't weigh myself like regularly at all. I did weigh myself. I guess the only time I really weigh myself is if I know that I've put on weight or, um, clothes are fitting a little more tight, and I need to find like a baseline to work from. Like if I don't feel right. So like I'm feeling not as great as I usually do, then I'll weigh myself. But typically, I don't weigh myself at all. I don't think it's really for me a beneficial thing. I don't really kind of worry about the scale. I feel like too, as you age, hormones are so variable that your weight is like it was when I was 30. So I feel like it's not really a good measure for me specifically individually. So I don't typically do that, but I try to go by how my clothes fit. And like I mentioned, doing extra cardio when I did get back from Europe, like I did make sure that I did extra cardio every day, even though it was like I was pushing myself, just to get back to where I was, and then kind of like go back to the regular routine. So I don't put too much pressure on it. I feel like, again, doing this method consistently, and if you do it for a long enough period of time, it doesn't take a whole lot to get back to where you were, and to maintain. So don't worry so much about vacations. Like it's just enjoy it, and it'll come off. This method is meant to do that, so that's why we are consistent.
Miriam would also like to know, how do you motivate yourself?
Well, I mean, I open Instagram every morning and I see, all of the posts from people that have already done their workouts, across the world, and how much more motivating can you get than that? I feel like that's the biggest motivator for me. And at this point, though, I do feel like I've been doing this method enough that it's a lifestyle for me. So it's kind of just like part of the daily routine. And I don't really need a ton of motivation unless I haven't like slept well, or if I'm sick or something, then I kind of have to check in with myself about what that's about. But usually, I can self-motivate pretty easily. It's not that difficult.
Do you always do Attain or Advanced, or do you switch between workouts at all?
I do Attain. I mean, I think I appreciate the challenge of Attain. I know that some people think like some of the weeks are just ridiculous and crazy, and even in those weeks, I will do Attain, and I feel like I think I challenge myself. Like I want to be able to do that move, like even if it seems crazy. So I try to do Attain unless I feel like the week is charging up certain muscles that I don't want it to charge up. Like if I feel like it's a shoulder heavy week and like drilling the same moves into my shoulders isn't going to be good for me, then that's kind of like when I would switch to fundamental. But for the most part, I do try to stick to Attain at least 5 days.
We have another good question in the chat from Cheryl FX. She said, what do you find you have to sacrifice to always commit to your workout time?
I mean, I think, and I related to you so much, Suzanne, when you were talking, I think it was during the Vitality Week and this Ask Tamily thing that you guys did. Because this year I was also promoted and was all positive. It was a very good thing. But I really had to restructure my whole routine and find consistency again. And I think that the ebbs and flows of life are really kind of the most difficult part for me, is because things are always going to change. That's just the only thing that we know for sure. So finding the routine again with those changes is probably the most challenging. So, I mean, I think, finding the time and prioritizing the time is number one. So, like, literally, I schedule it into my Outlook calendar every day. Otherwise, it won't get in. And so there's days where I have back-to-back phone calls and I can't figure out how I'm going to, get it in. And I think that was a struggle for a few months, like, where I missed a lot more workouts than I wanted to. But it was just what was necessary at the time. So I think you have to kind of give yourself a break if you feel like, you're going through something like that, and understand that that's going to take some time to sort out. But I mean, if it's something just like you're not finding motivation, or your family is not supportive or something like that, then those are things you probably have to deal with. I mean, I think like initially, I think everyone that does this method, I think their family and friends kind of think they're a little crazy. including my own. And so I think that takes time to help them understand that this is just kind of like what you do. And don't feel guilty, like to take that time for yourself. Like everybody has the option to do that, so take the time for yourself. And an hour to an hour and a half a day is really not that much to take for yourself. So
true. An hour is 4% of your day. You do deserve 4% of your day.
Exactly.
Have you ever met Tracy?
Yes, I met Tracy several times. The first time I met her was like right after I started streaming. It was, I think, October like 2015 at the Tribeca studio, the old one. And I remember like her walking in the room and just feeling like really emotional, like I wanted to tear up. And I think it was really just because she does touch a lot of women's lives, and I think she's aware, but she's probably not fully aware, like the individual lives, like totally that she touches. And so, but what I was it struck me that she was so down to earth, and really like one-on-one. She's really good one-on-one. Like she wants to get to know you. She's very interested in all about, you, but all of us really. So yes, I met her in Tribeca, and then subsequently, over the years, several times. So yes.
Awesome. Tell us about the experience of working out in the studio or at a Vitality Week.
So I've been to actually 6, like either Vitality Week or what they used to call crash courses, which were just like the weekend Vitality Weeks, like the shorter versions. So most of the ones I went to were here, like in Miami, and then you were there in Tampa. There was one in Orlando. And then also I've been able to visit this old Studio City studio a couple of times. And then most recently in January, the 59th Street studio. So it's been nice to see like all of the different settings. I think my favorite is obviously with Tracy. Like I think just having her energy, like when the music starts at Vitality Week, like it's really not describable. Like it's a very unique experience, and you have to kind of go through it to really know that energy. So it's awesome. But I love like all the trainers. Courtney is like my favorite girl, and dancing, at the studios, especially Studio City. I mean, those women are dancers, and so it's so fun. Like Maria Kelling, just to dance with her, her energy is just like explosive. So I think it's really it kind of resets me, like every time I do either a Vitality Week or even just visit the studio, and reminds me like why I do the method, why I love it so much, and it kind of like gets that motivation going again. So it's kind of like a reset every time.
So KT Instatam actually sent in a question that kind of has to do with that. She said, we've seen videos of you dancing with Tracy and Courtney. Have you danced with other trainers? So obviously Maria Kelling. Who else have you had the chance to dance with?
Lashana, I danced with her. She probably doesn't even remember because it was like the very first Vitality Week in that Tribeca studio, and Lashana was there, and actually Courtney was there. That was the first time I met Courtney. I feel like Courtney's style of dance and the way she chooses the dances are just so unique. Like I have a hard time when there's like the same routine like 3 times in a row within the dance cardio. She switches it up, and so I love that because it just like trains your brain. But I think Lashana, Courtney, Tracy. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I think Maria D was at one of the Vitality Weeks I went to. She's an amazing dancer. I'm trying to think if there was anyone else. That might be it.
Well, Courtney commented about you in the chat on this interview and said that you're a trainer's dream to dance with. So
she's awesome. She's awesome.
And Alexandra would like to know if you're planning to go to a Vitality Week next year.
I hope so. I mean, I feel like the bucket list for me is the Hamptons. I wanted to go this year, but it was like conflicting with my European trip, so I didn't get to. So maybe next year. I don't know. It's all so different too now. I feel like the Vitality Week. So I'll have to figure out like kind of what fits in the schedule. It seems like most of them are now being held at the studio. So I don't know if she's planning to come back to Florida, but hopefully if she does, I would do that too.
Yeah. It definitely makes a difference when it's really in her studio, just with the heat and humidity and the music right in the floors. That definitely seems to be like the place to go for sure.
Yeah, when I went to 59th Street in January, like we just missed Tracy by like a day or so. She was traveling, so didn't catch her that time, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. Stacy asked, actually, I think you've already answered this. Do you do both muscular structure and cardio every day? So the cardio is usually 3 to 4 days a week, right?
Yeah, not every day. And again, I do it after arms because I don't feel like I have the bandwidth after doing like the whole class to do cardio. At least now in the summertime, maybe in the winter when it's not as hot. Like you probably know, I mean, it's after this hurricane, the humidity is like crazy. So it's sort of like draining too. So I have to kind of watch out for that. But yeah, usually I'll increase cardio a little bit in the winter because you want to get like warmed up, especially work out in the garage. So doesn't get as hot during the winter.
So with your garage setup, do you usually use a heater and humidifier as well, or in the summer, can you just do it without that?
Yeah, in the summer I don't need it. I think starting probably around May, I don't need it at all. And so I'll just I'll clean everything and leave it alone until it starts to get chilly again. And that's usually, gosh, I'd probably say like maybe October-ish. So maybe the end of next month is when I would really start adding it back in. But the heat is still pretty good. I find that I do need the humidity more than the heat, at least for part of that time. But like December and January are the coldest for the garage. So I will need like a good 2 hours to crank everything up in there.
Yeah, but it definitely makes a difference.
It's hard for people that don't live, in this kind of environment because I don't know how they are able to do that. It's hard even just like for the couple months a year to have to do that. And it kind of factors into your routine too because you can't really like work out when you want to. You have to like heat it up, or at least I do. So
what time do you usually try to work out in the mornings?
Well, I work from home, fortunately, so I can usually have some flexibility. I usually get up, get my daughter off to school, have a cup of coffee, and then I have some focused work time because it's like for work time, my whole team is like on different time zones. So like the early morning is usually the quietest to try to like just get some work done. So I'll do like a couple hours of work and then I'll go into the garage, usually around 10ish. And I usually try not to spend like from start to finish more than 90 minutes. Like I'll try to be in and out by then, like showered and everything. So unless I have more energy or more time, then I'll try to add a little more. But
what is something that's important to you in your life that you would like the Tamily to know?
My family is the most important by far. They're my priority. My daughter, I have a 6-year-old. She's in first grade, and I really care about how she grows and develops and thinks of herself. And I try to be that role model for her. My career is important to me as well. And I try to just I think the most important thing is just trying to be a balanced person. And so I think that's, again, always it changes when you introduce new things to your life. But always trying to have balance is important to me.
Peachy Bottom has a question that kind of leads into that. How do you manage your Instagram time and respond to all the comments in your feed, balancing with everything else in your day?
That's hard. I think I used to post like a couple years ago every single day or every single workout. I can't really do that as much anymore with my schedule, but I do film myself, not only for Instagram, but I like to film myself to see, how I'm progressing through the week and to look at form and whatnot. So I think it's very helpful for anybody, even just if you have a mirror, like filming yourself kind of puts a different spin on it too, to see how you're doing. But I do film myself, and if I have extra time, then I will post, and that's basically how my routine is. I don't really make it so much a priority as much anymore, but I do find it very motivating to post and to see others post, so I want to participate in that. I think it's hard. I always try to comment back, and I feel badly when I don't comment back on every single comment, but I do try to make time for that too.
Seattle, Tamily, or Mary would like to know if you've encouraged any of your friends to join the method.
I have like a couple of cousins that are interested in doing it. I've never actually gotten my husband to join me, not once. So I know he's watching, so I think he needs to try it at least with me.
We do. Everyone thinks he needs to try it.
Yes, why not? I think too he has like some back problems. I feel like for me it helped my back problems after having my daughter. My back is really strong, I feel like, from the method, so I want him to try it. But my sister has tried it. I've had some friends try it, but nobody like really fully like committed to it yet. So hopefully.
Yeah, it's funny when people don't commit, especially when they have such an incredible example. Like, I mean, you've been doing the method for like 11 years, so like, can't they see it's the most perfect workout? But it has to be for the person, so.
It does, and they still probably borderline think I'm nuts. So they're like, well, I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah. Stella would like to know if you take any joint supplements.
I don't. The only thing that I've done is magnesium in the past, and I do sometimes do like the hydration tablets, but I really don't even take any vitamins. I don't know if that's bad or good, but I just typically haven't done that. So no. Is she mentioning it for the dancing piece?
Probably. That's what I'm thinking, especially because, you do dance on concrete. And that's another question someone asked, is if you've considered getting Tracy's floors or like other wooden jumpy floors.
Well, I was hoping to win like the contest of, referring for the 30-day trial. So yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard if anyone has won, but
yeah, I haven't heard it either.
I have. It's just my workout space. I'm not quite sure how much I want to invest in that. We do still like park our cars in the garage, so I don't know. It would have to be like we would have to make the permanent shift to cars in the driveway. So I'm not sure. I do okay right now, but I do understand like at some point my joints probably will suffer a little much from it. But I think I'm so used to it that I just haven't noticed any of those consequences. And I try not to overdo it, like doing it back-to-back days, giving my joints a rest. But I haven't noticed any problems as of yet, so fingers crossed. But hopefully I can win the floors.
We'll all vote for you. Have you had any challenges in doing the method?
I think the challenge, like I mentioned, the routine, like, kind of balancing it with work and family. I think that's the biggest challenge. I don't think like necessarily physically challenging. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hard every single day, every single week. There's never an easy day at all. But I feel like more of the challenge is the routine portion of it. And if there are splits, like the splits moves, I'm not a fan of those.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a fan or good enough at though. Alexandra would like to know, what is your favorite Tracy Anderson method move?
Oh, that's a good question. It has become the plank. And I think because I see how far I've come with it over the years, it really was not good at planks to begin with. The high planks is what I mean, like the downward dog style planks. And I think that I've grown to just really appreciate how well they actually work if you do it correctly. So I think that would probably be my favorite move. Yeah.
So most of us probably know this, but we want to ask so everyone can know. Where do you live and what do you do?
So I live in Orlando, Florida. I am a director at a large behavioral health company, and my group oversees clinical research and development of clinical guidelines for mental health and policies for mental health. So we basically research like best practice, evidence-based treatments, and eventually they get used by practitioners in the community to deliver mental health services. So my background is I used to be, well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I have a master's degree in social work, and I used to do direct care for many years, mostly in the adoption arena. So I did adoption work with children who were abused and neglected and helping to match them to adoptive families. So I did that for a long time. And then, after a little bit, I sort of saw that there was a lack of, leadership in clinical work. So I decided to get my MBA. So I went back to school to get my MBA about 10 years ago. And then I started working in healthcare, so behavioral healthcare. So it's a good integration between my clinical background and my business background. And I enjoy it. I've been in the same position or area for 10 years. So.
Excellent.
And I get to work from home, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. Whatever makes the method easier to me.
Are you working from home now too?
I have the option to sometimes do that, which is definitely good. But for the most part, I do have to go to the office.
Yeah.
But thank goodness I don't have the travel I had before.
Oh, I know. It's such a big change.
What kind of results have you seen from the method, and have any of them, would you say, are not physical results? What other kind of results?
So I think the biggest just overall results I've seen is just I'm so much stronger overall. I mean, I think you kind of don't realize when you're doing the moves and you're in the class, like how much strength some of these moves actually take, because you're kind of like overtaken by the pace, how fast everything is, the music. But if you really were to break those moves apart individually, I mean, they do require like such an amount of strength. So I think overall that's what I've noticed. Just being able to tolerate and the endurance piece of it too. I think my core in general has really strengthened as well. I mean, I think after I had my daughter, like when you have a baby, like your hips, your lower back, like your pelvis, everything just changes. And I was really weak in those spots, I feel like. And so when Tracy talks about like targeting those inner spine muscles, like she's not joking around. Like she really is going there and strengthening. So I don't feel like I have the weak back anymore. And I think in general, like the non-physical, I would just say more of an awareness, like a connection to myself, an awareness of myself, my mind, my body, how it all kind of like comes together and interacts. I think when you do the method, you are forced to connect all of those pieces in ways that, other forms of exercise you might not have to. So just seeing yourself more holistically, I think is kind of a big change in result from the method.
Definitely. Centra, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right, is asking, with the high planks and improving those, do you have any tips you could share with us?
I would say just always initially drive from the core, from your abs, and then think about, like, imagine your tip of your toe, like, hitting the ceiling and opening your hips. So, like, you want all those things to happen at once. So, like, you initiate from the core, your hip lifts, and then you want to focus on the toe, like, really touching as high of a point as you can. And you see the trainers, like, you just kind of look at how they do their planks. I mean, they're incredible. They're extensions. But I think, when you're not a dancer, like, you can still kind of mimic that movement if you originate from the core and focus on imagining, actually, like, how you're supposed to be looking when you're doing it. I think that helps too, like, kind of envisioning what your toe would look like touching the ceiling, like, literally. So that helps me anyway.
Excellent. Deb would like to know if you're doing the headstand this week.
Yes, and I actually posted it yesterday. The first day I was like, I'm not going to do it. It brought me back to like 2017. I think we did the same thing, and I had no clue about headstands back then. And I remember like practicing. So it was interesting when I finally like took time to do it. I did it after the class though yesterday. It was interesting that it wasn't as hard as I was like thinking it is. So I think we kind of put those barriers on ourselves too, like mentally, where we don't think we can do something, but we actually do have the strength and like the focus to do it. So yes, I'm going to be doing it from now on. I think it's a good practice. But I do feel like it's definitely not something, if you don't do it all the time, like, you're not going to be great at it. So I think we got to keep doing it, maybe.
Well, I remember when she did it, I think it was the first time in 2017 and streaming, and I was like, she's crazy. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And she said, it's also just part of something mentally that you think you can't do it, so you can't. You have to change your mind. And it's, that connection, like opening up those pathways and realizing, like, I think then I definitely didn't get my legs up. I probably couldn't get my legs up now either. But I could do much more of it than I really thought. Like, you really just have to open your mind to it. And that's what is so amazing about this method versus anything else. Like,
it is.
What else is transforming the structure of your brain? Like, or challenging you at your real confidence and inner strength and willpower. Like, it's amazing. But of course,
all of those neurons, like, firing and connecting every time you do the workout. I mean, I think it continues every single day, even if you're doing the same workout for 1 week, you're continuing to make those things fire. But yeah, I think we are our own barriers sometimes to some of that stuff. So it's nice that she kind of like gets us to be childlike and pushes us in that direction. So it's fun. Makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of fun, Keisha has a fun question. She would like to know, what's your favorite dessert and what's your favorite alcoholic beverage?
I'm actually not like a dessert person at all. So dessert to me would be like chips and salsa, or something salty or savory. So anything savory I love. I'd rather have like a large portion of dinner than like dessert. Mm-hmm. But I do like red wine as my alcoholic beverage of choice. And mimosas, which I do have, and I haven't even had a sip.
Oh, well, cheers.
What are you drinking?
Iced coffee, but that's like as good to me as alcohol.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Piper would like to know, where's the most unusual place that you've done the method?
I'm trying to think. I mean, mostly I try to, whenever I go somewhere outside of my home, I actually, before I book, think of all like where I could work out, which is part of like the booking process. So usually it's like a balcony, like during the summertime. I don't think I've really ever tammed like anywhere really strange though. I think no. I mean, isn't the garage kind of weird?
The garage is definitely one of the weirdest, especially for daily workouts. Definitely. Kristen would like to know if you stick with Tracy's music or if you do your own playlist.
Well, when that whole thing happened with the music, like I don't know, we went from using like regular songs to like the other playlist that didn't have any words or anything. Then I used my own music because I just couldn't take it. But now I think it's really improved and it feels good to me. So I always just stick with her music. But I do kind of miss the old days before all that.
Yeah, it really has super transformed in your time with the method for sure.
Yeah.
Natalie would like to know, how long have you known your girl gang of Minnie and Josie and Caroline? Did you guys all meet at the studio? We love seeing your get-togethers.
Oh, those are my girls. Yes, that's my circle. Yes, I love those girls. So I met actually Erin first at Tampa when we went to hospitality week. We kind of connected there, and then subsequently Erin became close to Josie and Caroline, and then I kind of joined that circle and met them, and so we really connected, I think, the most when we decided we were going to do an annual trip to Studio City. We've done it twice so far. We went to New York instead this last January because we were helping Erin to pick out her wedding dress, so that was sort of like the other girls trip that we took this year. And then they're all going to come down at the end of this month to do sort of like a bachelorette weekend. And then we're all in Erin's wedding coming up.
That's so exciting! Oh my God! You have to post so many pictures.
Yes. So they started out as, like workout friends, but beyond that, like, I think a lot of the time now we don't even so much talk about the workout as much as we talk just about our lives. So, but it is nice. I think you do need like people that do the method to connect to, because like unless you could explain it like over and over to everyone what it is and what you do, but until you do it, I mean, like you're in it, people don't really understand. So it's important to have those people you can like, and all of them, just like me, are very analytical about the method and like, what do you think she's trying to do with that move, and where are you feeling that move? So I feel like that's fun to me for all of us. So yeah.
Stella would like to know if you have a dance or athletic background. I think you said you did dance and like cheerleading and stuff.
I did like ballet, tap, and jazz from like age 3 to probably like 10 or 11, and then I stopped doing it. So I wasn't like a pro or anything, but I did have that foundation. And then I did do like competitive cheerleading in high school. And then I did find my way back to dance again in college. I just wanted to kind of reconnect to it again, and so I started taking ballet and modern in college. And then I also did folkloric dance, like Mexican dancing and salsa. And when I went abroad, for college. I actually traveled to Mexico, and my project was to study Mexican traditional dances in that region. It was in Oaxaca. So it's kind of always been part of what I've sought after, what I've included as part of my fitness. So I definitely love it. Just like even just to go dancing out is fun to me. So it's just part of, I think, what makes me engage well to the method too.
Excellent. What advice have you received from the Tamily that's been impactful to you in your method journey?
I think because this method kind of like attracts very disciplined, like type A personalities. I think the best advice I've gotten from my circle has just been to like chill out and like don't be too hard on yourself. Like Erin has been at times like, I think you just need a rest day. Like you need to chill out. You're gonna hurt yourself. So I think just not being hard on myself and not being too serious to the point where you're not actually like enjoying what you're doing. So it's, you don't have to take it completely seriously. It still is a workout, and just enjoy it.
That's such a good message, because you're right. We do get like insanely disciplined about the method, and having that balance and not like feeling guilty if you don't work out, or if you didn't get dance cardio in, or whatever the circumstances are. Is such an important message. Versus like work out every single day. Like sometimes you need that.
Drill sergeants. Yeah. We're like in the military. Yeah, it's not that.
Yes. What is your favorite thing about the method?
I think that it's always changing. I think that it's always challenging. Like I said before, I think there's not a day that I feel like, oh, this is a breeze. Like, this is easy peasy for me. I feel like it's constantly challenging, and you need that in a workout. I think if I had to like structure my own workout too, I think that would be very difficult. We're very lucky that Tracy choreographs these workouts. She tells us exactly what we need to do, and then we do it. I would hate if I had to like, okay, today I have to do like 30 burpees, and then I've got to do my squats, and like that would be just like so monotonous and boring to me. So I feel like it's exciting, it's changing, but it's challenging, and it's something that I feel like I can do as I age. So it's not so hard on the body that you ever feel like you would have to stop, like you would like weightlifting or running even. You can continue, and it's still good for your body.
Kim would like to know if you can describe yourself in 3 words.
I would say I try to do, I don't know if it's a word, but like everything I do, I try to do it like 100%. I'm loyal, and I'm empathic, and try to be non-judgmental.
That's an excellent description of like a perfect Tamily member. It really is.
Oh, there you go.
And you are such an incredibly inspirational, kind, open family member that everybody feels inspired by, and so we really appreciate being able to get to know you a little better. So we are actually almost at our hour, and Instagram will cut us off with no notice. And I think we've gotten all the questions in the chat, but if anyone has a last minute question, please type it in. And Loretta, while you have this audience, is there anything else you would like to say to the Tamily?
I think just, as long as you start where you are, like no matter where that is in the process, in your fitness journey with the method, that is where you should be. Don't feel like you have to do the best performance on day one of the class. I feel like what's important to remember about Tracy's intention is that the class is not meant to be easy on day one. Like literally you're supposed to progress and gain skills over the course of the week. And I think that's a good lesson to have actually with fitness in general. So you start, where you are, recognize where you are, be aware of that, and try your hardest to gain strength, gain fitness from there, and just be so glad that we have this community to lean on for that, because it's not an easy thing to do alone. And I think, having this community as a support is really unique. And I appreciate it so much every day. I'm going on 4 years of doing the method, or streaming at least. And, I want to continue that. So just be where you are and don't judge yourself, and, focus on improving. That's it.
Excellent message. Thank you so much, Loretta. We really appreciate it.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. We might have to do another interview sometime in the future, because I probably didn't ask you half the questions we had planned since we had so many in the chat. But it was so nice of you to answer all of them for us, and we really appreciate your inspiration in the Tamily.
Thanks so much. It was fun.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Tamily.
Bye-bye. Bye.